Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The city of Gotham was quiet for once, the kind of quiet that didn't Drew sit right with Barry Allen. From his vantage point atop a deserted skyscraper, he could see the outlines of the city sharp, dark, jagged like the teeth of some long-dead creature. The rain was a fine mist, turning the streetlights into blurred halos. It was a night that felt too calm, too still, and Barry's solid instincts were on high alert. Below him, Batman crouched in the shadows, every bit the predator Barry had come to rely on over the years. Barry knew that if something was amiss, Bruce Wayne would sense it before anyone. But tonight, even the dark night seemed subdued, waiting for the signal that would set everything in motion. Ready for this? Barry asked through his communicator, his voice cracking the heavy silence. Batman's voice came back, low and controlled. Stay sharp. Flash this new player. Isn't T1 to underestimate. Barry let out a breath, his heart already racing. The new villain, one whose name had spread through the underground like wildfire, had developed a device capable of disrupting the space-time continuum. And that's why Barry was here. His connection to the Speed Force made him the best option to handle any temporal distortion. But Batman Sal's presence was more than just backup. The world's greatest detective had uncovered something deeper, something that made Barry Mia's skin crawl. They had set a trap tonight. They would confront the villain and stop whatever plan was set in motion before it spiraled out of control. Barry had dealt with time-based threats before, but this one had a weight to it that felt different, dangerous. Bruce Bird, letting the rain fall against his face. Spare, are we doing the right thing? What if we miscalculated? The pause that followed was too long for Barry's comfort. We were prepared. Stick to the plan. That was all Barry needed to hear. He trusted Bruce Wayne with his life. Even if the man wasn't one to share more than a few cryptic words at a time, tonight was no different. They moved quickly after that. Batman slipped into the depths of the city, his cape billowing behind him like a shadow come to light. Barry followed at a slower pace, his eyes scanning for any sign of temporal anomaly. His speed made him feel invincible sometimes, but tonight something gnawed at him, gripping doubt that made his every step feel heavier than usual. Suddenly, a sharp, shrill sound filled the air like glass shattering in Barry's ears. He winced, looking down to see the streets begin to ripple like a mirage. Flash now, Batman's voice was urgent. Without hesitation, Barry launched himself forward, feeling the familiar rush of wind against his face as the world blurred around him. His mind sharpened, focused only on reaching the source of the disturbance. His legs moved faster than human eyes could track the world, a swirl of colors as he tore through space. Then he saw at a device, a small, unassuming black box hovering in the air, pulsating with a strange energy. Time itself seemed to bend and warp around it, creating waves that distorted the very fabric of reality. I've got it. Barry yelled, reaching out with his hand, just as Batman, a form materialized out of the darkness behind him. But Barry was too confident, too fast. In his rush to neutralize the device, he miscalculated his speed too much for the delicate temporal field surrounding the box. The moment his fingers made contact, a violent pulse of energy erupted from the device, sending him spiraling backward. And then he heard it, Batman, voice, not over the communicator, but from behind him. A sharp grunt of pain, followed by a gut-wrenching scream that sent a chill down Barry's spine. Bruce, Barry yelled, turning to see the unthinkable. Time was tearing itself apart. A rip in the air had opened a swirling vortex of light and darkness, and Bruce, his friend, his partner, was caught at the edge, his body beginning to disintegrate as if being pulled into the very heart of the rift. Barry ran faster than he'd ever run before, but it was too late. In one horrific second, Bruce was gone, sucked into the vortex as if he had never been there at all. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes. Barry couldn't tell. He sat alone in the Batcave, staring at the empty chair where Bruce usually sat. The cave was eerily silent. The only sound, the faint hum of the computers still running diagnostics on the temporal anomaly. The space around him felt emptier than it ever had before. Barry's mind was racing, replaying the moment again and again in his head. How he failed. How could he have been so careless? He could have saved Bruce. He should have saved him. He pressed his hands to his face, the weight of what he'd done settling heavily on his shoulder. Bruce was more than just a partner. He was family, and now because of Barry's mistake, Bruce was lost, maybe forever. The rest of the Justice League had tried to help. They had searched, sending out scans and probes across the multiverse, but nothing. It was as if Bruce had simply vanished, but Barry knew better. Bruce was out there somewhere, trapped in a dimension he couldn't reach, not yet, anyway. Barry stood up, his resolve hardening. He wasn't going to give up. He couldn't hang out. While there was a chance, however, slim, that he could bring Bruce back. He turned toward the portal machine that Batman had been working on in secret. It was dangerous, unstable, and untested, but Barry didn't care. He was the fastest man alive. If anyone could outrun time and space to find Bruce, it was him. The first jump was disorienting. The speed force enveloped him, pulling him through a tunnel of light and sound as he hurtled into the unknown. When he landed, it was like slamming into a brick wall. His body shook with the impact, and he stumbled forward, barely catching his balance. Barry blinked, adjusting to his surroundings. He was in another Gotham City. But this one was different, darker, colder. The skyline was jagged, the streets empty. The bat signal was still there, but it flickered, weak and distorted like a dying ember. Barry's heart raced. This wasn't his world. This wasn't his Bruce South world. He started running, scanning the area for signs of life, for any trace of Batman. He called out, hoping that Bruce would somehow hear him, but there was nothing. Then out of the shadows, a figure emerged. It was Bruce, or at least a version of him. This Bruce was older, battle-worn, his face hardened by years of fighting. His eyes, once sharp and calculating, were dulled by the weight of too many losses. "Who are you?" cried Bruce. "Bruce, Fuslow, where?" Barry's heart ached at the sight of him. This wasn't his Bruce, but it was close enough. "Bruce, it's me, it's Barry," he said, stepping forward, his voice trembling with emotion. "I made a mistake. I lost you, and I am trying to bring you back, but this isn't your world." The older Bruce studied him for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "You're not from here," he said finally, "but you came to fix something. I can see it in your eye." Barry nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "I need to find my Bruce, the real Bruce. I need to fix what I did." Bruce stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I've made my share of mistakes too, Barry. You're not the first one to mess up, but the question is, how far are you willing to go to make it right?" Barry didn't hesitate, whatever it takes. Barry stood in front of the older Bruce, the weight of his promise hanging between them. He didn't know what it would take to make things right, but he was willing to do anything to bring Bruce back. The older Bruce motioned for Barry to follow, his movements slow and deliberate, the burden of years spent fighting wars that never ended evident in every step. They walked through the streets of this alternate Gotham. The city seemed lifelessness, unnerving. Shadows clung to every corner as if the very essence of the place had been sapped away long ago. "You're chasing ghosts, Barry?" the older Bruce said quietly as they approached what remained of Wayne Manor. The structure was dilapidated, its grandeur long eroded by time and neglect. "Sometimes the past doesn't want to be rewritten. Sometimes it sounds better to let it be." Barry clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. "I can't let him go. I won tire. Still time to fix this." The older Bruce gave him a long look before pushing open the heavy doors of the manor. Inside, the grand halls were barely recognizable. Once filled with life and purpose, they now felt cold, abandoned. But there was something more, something intangible lingering in the air, as if the weight of the past still haunted the place. "I've tried to change things before," Bruce said, his voice hollow. "Tried to save people I couldn't. Time has a way of fighting back." Barry looked around, his heart aching at the sight of this world and Bruce so different yet so familiar. He knew this wasn't his Bruce, but in some ways, they were all the same. Warriors who carried the weight of the world on their shoulder. Barry couldn't let this Bruce fate be a glimpse into his own friend Sal's future. "I've already come this far," Barry said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Dear, I can't." Bruce's eyes flickered with something recognition, maybe, or a glimmer of understanding. "There's a way," he said, finally turning away from Barry and heading deeper into the manor. "But it's not without risk. You could lose yourself. You could lose everything." Barry followed without hesitation. He had already lost Bruce once. He couldn't lose him again. They entered what was once the Batcave, though here it was more of a graveyard for technology. The remains of the Batmobile rusting in one corner, monitors flickering with static, old bat suits hanging like forgotten relics. In the center of it all stood an ancient-looking machine, one that hummed with a low, menacing energy. This is it. The older Bruce nodded. It's an isotemporal displacer. It can send you to the exact moment in time you were looking for. You have to be careful. If you don't anchor yourself properly, you will be lost in the time stream forever. Barry stepped forward, his pulse quickening. Same type of choice. Bruce's hand gripped Barry's shoulder, forcing him to pause. Listen to me, Barry. The Bruce you were looking for, he might not be the same when you find him. Time changes people. You have to be ready for that. Barry swallowed hard, meeting Bruce's gaze. I know, but I have to try, Dad. Without another word, Barry activated the machine. It roared to life, the air around them crackling with electricity. The hum of the machine grew louder, filling Barry's ears until it drowned out everything else. He felt the pull of the speed force, the familiar sensation of being stretched across time and space as the world around him blurred. The next thing he knew, he was back in Gotham, his Gotham, but something was wrong. The sky above was dark, not with night, but with a swirling mass of clouds that pulsed with unnatural energy. The streets below were in chaos, people running, buildings crumbling, fires burning uncontrollably. Barry's heart pounded in his chest. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. He'd come back to fix things, not make them worse. He raced through the city, his mind whirling. He had to find Bruce. He had to make sure he was okay as he sped through the streets. He caught glimpses of what had happened in his absence, villains running rampant, the Justice League spread too thin to keep the peace. It was as if his mistake had fractured everything, sending the world spiraling into chaos. And then he saw him standing on the rooftop of Wayne Tower, silhouetted against the stormy sky. Bruce. Barry skidded to a stop in front of him, breathless and desperate. Great, Bruce, thank God, he said. But Bruce didn't move. He stood perfectly still, his cape billowing in the wind, his face shadowed beneath the cowl. Barry stepped closer, his voice trembling. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was trying to save you. Finally, Bruce turned to face him, and Barry's blood ran cold. This wasn't the Bruce he knew. This Bruce's eyes were cold, his face hard and unfeeling. There was no recognition, no warmth, only a man who had been broken beyond repair. You can fix this, Barry, Bruce said, his voice low and dangerous. Or you never could. Barry stumbled back, his heart sinking. I know now this isn't right? This isn't how it's supposed to be. Bruce took a step forward, his presence looming over Barry like a dark cloud. You meddled with time, and now you have to live with the consequences. Barry shook his head, refusing to believe it. There's still a way to fix this. I can still make things right. But Bruce's eyes didn't waver. You were too late. In that moment, Barry realized the truth. He had been chasing something that couldn't be undone. The Bruce he knew, the Bruce he had fought so hard to save was gone. And in his place was this man, a shell of the hero he once was. Tears stung Barry's eyes as he took a step back. I am sorry, Sarah, he whispered, his voice breaking. Terrace, I am so sorry, Tuck. Bruce said nothing. He simply turned away, disappearing into the shadows once more. Barry stood alone on the rooftop, the weight of his failure crashing down on him like a tidal wave. He had tried so hard to fix things, to bring Bruce back, but in the end, all he had done was make things worse. As the storm raged on around him, Barry knew that there was only one thing left to do. He ran faster than he had ever run before, faster than the speed force itself. He ran until the world around him blurred, until time itself began to unravel. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know if he would ever find his way back, but he didn't take care. All that mattered was running. And so Barry Allen, the fastest man alive, ran into the void, leaving everything behind.